In the city of Lagos, Nigeria, where dreams are made and shattered in the blink of an eye, lived a young woman named Amara. She was only 18 when life handed her a harsh, unforgiving reality. Her dreams of a bright future came to an abrupt halt when she discovered she was pregnant. The man who had promised her the world vanished, leaving her alone with no support, no guidance, and no hope. Amara's parents were ashamed of her. In their eyes, she was a disappointment, a failure to the family name. They rejected her, kicked her out of their home, and told her to fend for herself. "You've brought shame to us," her father had yelled, his voice filled with anger. "You'll raise that child alone. I don't want to see you here again." Tears fell freely from Amara's eyes, but she didn't have the luxury of staying in despair. She had a child growing inside her, a life that depended on her. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew she had to survive for her daughter, for herself. With nowhere to turn, she found herself sleeping on the cold streets, beneath the bridge, using what little she had to survive. Each day, she walked the busy streets of Lagos, hawking everything she could, from groundnuts to second-hand clothes. The scorching sun didn't care that she was tired. The harsh reality didn't care that she was a young girl barely starting life. Every day felt like a battle, but Amara fought, determined to make sure her daughter had a better life. The journey was never easy. There were days when Amara's body felt broken, her spirit nearly crushed. But nothing hurt more than when her baby fell ill. One cold rainy day, Amara's daughter, who she named Chiamaka, caught a fever so high that her small body could hardly withstand it. The money she earned from hawking was never enough for medical bills, and every clinic she visited turned her away because she couldn't afford the fees. Desperate, Amara had no choice but to sell her blood, hoping the little money would be enough to save her child. As she laid in the hospital bed, her blood running through the needle, Amara thought of the years ahead. She thought of how she could never escape the cycle of poverty, but most of all, she thought about the love she had for Chiamaka, her precious daughter. It was that love that pushed her to keep going, even when it seemed like the world was closing in. But through all the struggle, Amara never stopped dreaming. She never stopped believing that one day, things would get better. Years passed, and Chiamaka grew into a beautiful young woman. She had inherited her mother's resilience and strength, but, unlike Amara, she was determined to break free from the chains of poverty. Chiamaka worked hard to put herself through school, and, eventually, she found a job at a reputable company. For the first time in years, Amara felt a sense of relief. Her daughter was doing well, and with her support, Amara could finally breathe. One evening, while Amara sat in her small living room, her daughter came home with exciting news. "Mum," Chiamaka said, her face beaming with joy. "I've met someone. His name is Emeka. He's the CEO of a big company. He's successful, charming, and he's really into me." Amara smiled, proud of her daughter. She had never imagined this day would come. Chiamaka had always worked hard, and now she was on her way to something better. Days passed, and Emeka came to visit. He was tall, confident, and dressed in a way that made Amara feel like she had stepped into a different world. His polished shoes gleamed under the light, and his watch was as expensive as the clothes he wore. He was everything Amara had never known but had always dreamed of. The moment Emeka stepped into their modest apartment, however, there was something Amara noticed a flicker in his eyes. A recognition. Emeka froze as he entered the living room. His eyes widened as they met Amara's, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. The air was thick with the weight of recognition, yet neither of them spoke. Amara's heart pounded in her chest. She couldn't place it at first, but then, it hit her. This was the same young man she had fallen in love with years ago. The one who had once looked at her with longing, the one who had whispered sweet promises and dreams of a life together. Amara's hands trembled. She hadn't seen him since he was sent abroad by his wealthy parents to study. His sudden disappearance had shattered her, and she had carried the pain of his abandonment for so long. Now, here he was, standing in front of her, years later, as a successful CEO. And worse, he was dating her daughter. Chiamaka looked at the two of them, oblivious to the tension in the room. She smiled and introduced them formally. "Mum, this is Emeka. Emeka, meet my mum." But Amara couldn't speak. Her eyes were locked on Emeka, and the memories flooded her, memories of dreams, of promises, of love that had been torn away so easily. She had spent years building a life for her daughter, working tirelessly, never once considering the possibility that the love she had lost could return like this. Emeka, on the other hand, was also struggling to process what was happening. He had loved Amara once, but he had been sent away by his parents, torn between loyalty and love. The years spent abroad had created distance, but now, seeing her standing in front of him, something stirred in his heart. His gaze flickered between Amara and Chiamaka, and for the first time, he felt the weight of his past actions. "Emeka," Amara said, her voice shaky, her heart pounding in her chest. You don't recognize me, do you?" Emeka's eyes widened, and his face drained of color. "Amara?" His voice was barely a whisper. The name fell from his lips like a distant memory, and his heart clenched. He had never forgotten her, but he hadn't known she was the mother of the woman he had fallen for. The room was filled with a deafening silence as the realization hit both of them. Amara's daughter, Chiamaka, was the daughter of the very woman Emeka had loved and abandoned years ago. The betrayal, the love, the broken promises, it all came rushing back. Chiamaka, seeing the exchange between her mother and Emeka, felt a sudden pang in her heart. She looked back and forth between the two, her mind racing. What was going on? Why had her mother seemed so shaken? But before she could ask, Emeka's face hardened. His expression changed from confusion to something darker, something unspoken. "Amara," he said, his voice tight, "I never wanted to hurt you. I was forced to leave, but I never stopped thinking about you." Amara felt the sting of his words. He had left her once, but now, he was in her daughter's life. What was she supposed to do with this? Was it her turn for happiness, or had her past love come to take everything from her once again? Just as the tension grew thicker, Chiamaka spoke, her voice trembling. "What is going on here? Emeka, what do you mean you never stopped thinking about my mother?" Emeka's gaze shifted to Chiamaka. He was caught in a web of guilt and regret, unable to answer her. Amara, however, saw the storm brewing in her daughter's eyes. The young woman was finally starting to piece the puzzle together. Before anyone could say another word, Amara, with tears streaming down her face, stood and walked out of the room. She couldn't bear the weight of the situation any longer. She had worked so hard for Chiamaka to have a better life, but now, her past was coming to take it all away. Outside, the cool Lagos air did nothing to soothe her racing heart. She stood by the gate, feeling the weight of everything she had sacrificed. She thought of her daughter, the girl she had raised through struggles and pain. But now, it seemed that her past love had come to take that joy away. As Amara stood there, lost in her thoughts, a decision began to form in her mind. She could no longer live in the shadows of her past. She had given everything to raise her daughter, and now, it was time to stand for herself. But what would happen when Chiamaka learned the truth about her mother's heartache, the love they had both shared, and the consequences of it all? And so, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Amara stood at a crossroads. The story was far from over. The choices they made from this moment would determine their futures, their relationships, and their lives. But as the night sky filled with stars, one thing was clear: Amara's journey of love and sacrifice was not finished. The truth had just begun to unfold. Amara stood at the gate of her modest apartment, the cool Lagos breeze brushing against her skin, but the storm in her heart could not be silenced. As she gazed into the distance, memories of the life she had once dreamed of flooded her mind. She had worked so hard to give her daughter everything she never had: love, stability, the hope of a better future. But now, standing in the shadows of her past, it felt like all of her sacrifices had been in vain. She had raised Chiamaka from the day she was born. Every sleepless night, every painful sacrifice, and every tear she shed was for her daughter. Yet now, it seemed as if everything had come crashing down around her. Chiamaka, the man she once loved, the man who had broken her heart years ago, had returned into her life, but this time, he was in her daughter's life. Amara's thoughts swirled as she stood there. She didn't know what to feel anymore, betrayed, confused, angry. But most of all, she felt helpless. The man she loved was now part of her daughter's world, and the deep love they once shared seemed to mean nothing in the face of time and circumstance. Chiamaka paced the floor, her mind reeling with questions. She had never imagined that her mother's past would collide so dramatically with her present. She thought she knew everything about her mother, the strength, the sacrifices, the hardships. But this was something she had never expected. Chiamaka, what do you mean you never stopped thinking about my mother? Chiamaka's voice trembled as she confronted him. Her heart was torn between confusion and anger. Chiamaka looked down at his hands, his fingers trembling as if the weight of the truth was too much to bear. He had always been a man of control, confident in everything he did, but now he felt small in the presence of the two women whose lives he had once touched. He had always known that one day, the past would come back to haunt him. But he had never imagined it would unfold like this. I didn't know, Chiamaka started, his voice faltering. When I left for school, I thought I was doing the right thing. My parents, they insisted, and I believed it was for the best. But every day, I thought about Amara. I never stopped thinking about her. I wanted to come back, but by then, she had already moved on. Chiamaka's eyes widened, her disbelief evident. You left her. You left her without a word. And now, you expect me to just accept that you're back, all these years later? You come into my life as if nothing happened. And you expect me to understand? Chiamaka tried to approach her, but Chiamaka stepped back, her fists clenched. No. Stay away from me. You've broken my trust, and I don't know if I can ever forgive you. Amara's voice echoed from the doorway, quiet but firm. You don't have to forgive him, Chiamaka. You don't have to understand. She walked into the room, her eyes filled with emotion, her face a mixture of sadness and determination. But you need to listen to me, both of you. This isn't just about love. This is about the choices we make and the consequences they bring. Both Chiamaka and Chiamaka turned to face her, and in that moment, all the years of pain, heartache, and sacrifice seemed to hang in the air, thick and heavy. I was just a girl, Amara continued, her voice breaking, with dreams of love, dreams of a future. But when Chiamaka left, I was left with nothing. No support, no hope, and no direction. I had no choice but to raise you, Chiamaka, on my own. And I would do it all again no matter the pain, because you are my heart, my soul, my reason for living. Chiamaka's eyes filled with tears as she looked at her mother, seeing her in a way she had never truly understood before. All these years, she had seen Amara as just her mother, the strong, silent woman who never asked for help. But now, she saw the depth of the sacrifices Amara had made. She saw the love that had been buried beneath the pain, the dreams that had been forgotten for the sake of her daughter's future. Why didn't you tell me? Chiamaka whispered. Why didn't you tell me about him? About what he meant to you? Amara sighed, her eyes meeting Chiamaka's. I never wanted you to carry the weight of my choices. I wanted you to have a better life than I did. But I can see now, the past doesn't stay buried forever. It always finds its way back. There was a long silence before Chiamaka spoke again, his voice full of regret. Amara, I know I hurt you. I never meant to leave you like that, but I was young, scared, and torn between my family and my heart. I thought time would heal everything, but now I see that I've done more harm than good. Amara's eyes softened, and for a moment, she saw the young man she had once loved. But the pain was too deep to ignore. She turned to Chiamaka, her voice steady. I've spent my whole life protecting you, loving you, and giving everything I had to ensure you had a future. But this is not my fight anymore. This is your story now, Chiamaka. You have to decide what you want, what's important to you. Chiamaka stood there, conflicted. She had grown up without her father, never understanding why he wasn't there. But now, she had to face the reality of a man who had once been in love with her mother and the man who now claimed a place in her life. The weight of the decision pressed heavily on her shoulders. Could she trust Emeka again? Could she allow him back into her life and her mother's life after everything that had happened? You can't just waltz back into our lives, Emeka, Chiamaka said, her voice firm. You've hurt both of us. You left us without a word, and now you're trying to fix things. I don't know if I can forgive you. Emeka's face hardened, but his eyes softened as he spoke. I don't expect forgiveness right away, Chiamaka. I only want the chance to make things right. I love your mother, and I'm sorry for all the pain I've caused. But I'm here now, and I'm not leaving again. The room was filled with tension as Chiamaka stared at him. She looked at her mother, who was silently watching the exchange, her face filled with both sorrow and hope. After what seemed like an eternity, Chiamaka finally spoke. I need time to figure this out. Amara nodded. Take all the time you need, Chiamaka. I will respect whatever decision you make. Chiamaka walked out of the room, leaving Emeka and Amara alone. Emeka turned to Amara, his face filled with uncertainty. Do you think she'll ever forgive me? Amara sighed, her voice heavy with emotion. I don't know, Emeka. But she needs time. Just like I did. And like you do. As Emeka stood there, lost in his thoughts, Amara stepped forward, her hand gently resting on his arm. I never stopped loving you, Emeka, but I've learned that love is not enough. It's about trust, sacrifice, and making the right choices. Emeka nodded, understanding the depth of her words. I know. And I'll spend the rest of my life proving that I'm worthy of both you and your daughter. But as the days passed, the tension between the three of them grew. Chiamaka's uncertainty lingered, and Amara's heart ached with the memories of the love she had once lost. Could Emeka truly make things right? Or would their past betrayals destroy everything they had left? The sun was setting over Lagos, casting a warm golden glow across the city as Amara stood by the window, watching the bustling streets below. The hum of traffic, the calls of street vendors, and the constant energy of the city seemed distant to her in that moment. Her heart was heavy, and her mind was clouded. She had never imagined her life would come to this. The man she had once loved now standing before her, and her daughter, the one person she had fought so hard to protect, now angry and torn between them. Amara had spent the past few days replaying the events in her mind. Chiamaka's words echoed in her ears, You're in the way, mother. You don't belong here anymore. Her daughter's betrayal had cut deeper than anything she could have imagined. Chiamaka, the little girl she had raised with so much love, had thrown her out, choosing a man who had once broken her own heart over her own mother. Amara's chest tightened as she remembered the look in Chiamaka's eyes, the anger and pain that she had never seen before. It was as if her daughter had become a stranger, and the love they once shared was shattered by the reappearance of Emeka. But no matter how much it hurt, Amara understood. She knew that love, even the most powerful love, could be confusing and difficult. Chiamaka had felt rejected by the man she had always loved, and she had seen her mother as the one standing in her way. As Amara sat down on the couch, tears blurred her vision. The memories of her own struggles of sleeping under bridges, selling goods on the street, and working tirelessly to make sure her daughter had a better life flooded her heart. She had given everything for Chiamaka. She had sacrificed her happiness, her dreams, and even her love, all for her daughter's future. But now, it seemed that all of that had been for nothing. The door creaked open, and Amara looked up. Chiamaka entered the room, her face hard and determined. There was no trace of the girl Amara had raised, no trace of the love and trust they once shared. Chiamaka was different now, wiser, colder, and more distant. Her mother could see that the weight of her decision had begun to take its toll on her. I don't want to fight anymore, Chiamaka, Amara whispered, her voice hoarse. "I only wanted what was best for you. I wanted you to have the life I never had, a life full of love and opportunity. But this is not what I wanted." Chiamaka stood there, her eyes filled with anger, but there was something else behind her eyes: regret, guilt, and pain. She had never wanted to hurt her mother. But the jealousy, the confusion, and the overwhelming emotions she felt in that moment had clouded her judgment. "Mom, I can't live like this. I can't watch you and Emeka together. He was the love of your life, and I was just a reminder of everything that went wrong between you two." Chiamaka's voice broke as she spoke, the weight of her words settling heavily in the room. Amara's heart shattered as she heard those words. It was true, Emeka had been her first love. He had been everything to her once, but life had torn them apart. And now, seeing him again, her feelings had resurfaced. But Amara had never wanted this for her daughter. She had never wanted her love for Emeka to be the cause of her pain. "You're my everything, Chiamaka," Amara said softly, tears streaming down her face. "I've sacrificed everything for you. I love you with all my heart. But love is never about possession, it's about letting go when it's time." Chiamaka stood frozen, unable to move. Her mother's words rang in her ears, and for the first time, she saw the truth of it. She had been so blinded by her jealousy, so consumed by her fear of losing the man she loved, that she hadn't seen how much her mother had suffered. Amara had given up her own happiness, her own dreams, just so that Chiamaka could have a better life. And yet, Chiamaka had chosen to push her mother away. "I'm sorry, Mom," Chiamaka whispered, her voice barely audible. "I didn't know I was selfish. I should never have treated you like that." Amara's heart swelled with relief. "Chiamaka, it's not too late. We can fix this, together. I've always wanted you to be happy and I've always loved you." The mother and daughter stood in the silence of that room, their hearts full of emotion, the love between them rekindling as the storm of their past slowly subsided. Chiamaka walked over to her mother and hugged her tightly, her body shaking with the release of all the emotions she had kept inside. "I don't deserve your love, but I promise, Mom, I'll make it up to you. I'll never choose anyone over you again." Amara smiled through her tears, holding her daughter tightly. "You don't have to make it up to me, my love. We'll walk this path together, and everything will be all right." A few weeks later, life began to settle back into a peaceful rhythm. Emeka, despite the tensions and difficulties that had arisen, remained a part of their lives. But now, it wasn't just about him and Amara, it was about the three of them finding a way to heal, to rebuild, and to move forward together. Emeka approached Amara one evening, sitting beside her on the balcony as the last rays of the sun dipped below the horizon. The city of Lagos spread out before them, a vibrant, bustling maze of lights and sounds. But for Amara, this moment felt like the calm after a storm. It felt like hope was finally within reach. "Amara," Emeka began, his voice steady but filled with emotion, "I know I've made many mistakes. I know I've hurt you and Chiamaka in ways I can never undo. But I want to build something better with you, with your daughter. I want to make up for the time we lost." Amara turned to face him, her eyes soft but full of strength. "Emeka, I can't go back to who we were before. We've both changed, but I can give you a chance to show me that you're serious. It's not just about me anymore, it's about Chiamaka too. She's been through so much." "I understand," Emeka said, nodding, "and I'm ready to do whatever it takes." And so, in the months that followed, Emeka worked tirelessly to prove his sincerity. He wasn't just trying to win Amara's heart, he was trying to rebuild the trust that had been broken, not only with her, but with her daughter as well. He became a man of his word, supporting them both financially, emotionally, and spiritually. The family that had once been torn apart by love and ambition was slowly healing. Chiamaka, too, found her own path. She pursued her dreams, not out of bitterness or the desire to prove something to the world, but from a place of love and gratitude. She went back to school, started her own business, and, most importantly, began to forgive herself. She had been through so much, but she learned that healing came from within. As the years passed, Amara, Chiamaka, and Emeka built a new life together, a life full of love, laughter, and peace. Amara finally found the happiness she had longed for. She no longer had to struggle to survive, no longer had to sacrifice her dreams for the sake of her daughter. With Emeka by her side, she finally had the love and security she had always dreamed of. The mansion that Emeka had once built for Chiamaka became a home filled with warmth and joy. Amara no longer needed to sleep under bridges or sell her blood to survive. She had a life of luxury, but more than that, she had a life of love, a love she had never given up on, even in her darkest moments. And so, the woman who had once been lost in the struggles of life found her way back to happiness. She learned that love, forgiveness, and the strength to move forward were the keys to unlocking the future she had always dreamed of. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more thrilling tales. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, we love hearing from you. And stay tuned for the next chapter of our incredible story.